Hi, this is Katie from Queen's Podcast. Just a heads up, our show does include some strong language. So if you're uncomfortable with that, this might not be the show for you. Cheers, bitches! Hi, this is Katie.
And this is Nathan.
And you're listening to Queen's Podcast, the show about badass women in history. I guess that's our way today of saying welcome to Queen's Podcast.
Hello.
How you doing, Nathan?
Oh, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little hungover.
Yeah.
And I'm putting some hair on that dog.
Yeah. Nathan texted me last night with pictures of them going out, and I had already come home for the evening. Because I don't play with going out at 10 or 11. I was like, oh, we've already gone to dinner and a show.
I'm done.
We're already home for the night. But we're here now, and we are ready to talk some more about Sisi.
Yeah, spilling the tea about Sisi.
Elisabeth of Austria, part 2. All right, so Nathan, what are we drinking?
We're drinking what you made.
We're drinking a lazy cocktail because neither of us really had time to recreate last week's. So Nathan had some vodka, I had some fruit punch.
And we made some fruit punch
vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had to make a suggestion, it would be puree some strawberries, put a shot of vodka, and then get some carbonated water with some lime in it.
Do what we say, not what we do. Today it's Crystal Light fruit punch and vodka.
Work!
All right, so first we got some shout-outs.
So, shout-outs to, those bitches that pledged way more than we fucking asked for.
You extra bitches.
We love you, and we're here for it.
Amber, Ashley, Charity, Courtney, Delania, Heather, and Natalie.
And shout out to our Empress supporters, Angelica, Ashley, Brianna, Anastasia, Brooks, Brendan, Brittany, Cadence, Christine, Claire, Deanne, Erin, Eleanor, Genevieve, Grace. I feel like we're in Mickey Mouse moment. Hannah, Isabel, Jackie, Jamie, Jessica S, and both Jessica B's.
There are 2 Jessica B's.
Boom.
Boom goes the Jessicas.
Joshua, Jared, Jazz, Kelly, Kaylee, Kristen, Lizzie, Lucy, Maddie, Maureen, Mariah, Rachel, Sarah, Kate, Stephanie, Spencer, Taylor, Terry, Tiffany, and Yen.
And shout out to our Queen Consort supporters, Adelaide, Alexis, Amanda, Ashley, Alyssa, Brianna, Beck and Chris, Caroline, Charlotte, Chelsea M, Chelsea R, Christina, Carrie Ann, Retta, Claire, Danny, Danielle, Emily, Haley, Helene, Nicolette, Jamie, Jara. We got 2 Jessicas over here too, Jessica S and Jessica M.
So good.
Jessicas just love us. And you know what? We love Jessicas. I have a sister named Jessica.
Oh.
Jose, Julie, Kat, Kayla, Kiana, Melanie, Melissa, Peggy, Shannon, Sarah K, Sarah L, Shara Lee, Taylor, Toby, and Valerie. And thank you to all of our supporters at every level, and thank you to anybody that listens to the show. You guys are awesome.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you. All right. Quick note, we're going to be taking our summer hiatus after this, so we're not really sure if we're going to get back to it in late August or early September, but sometime around that time.
But if you're a Patreon supporter, we're going to continue to do Patreon episodes.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to you about this, but we should totally do the Romanoff, binge watch it on the 3rd.
Yeah.
And then just do a review. There you go. We got it.
And in the meantime, I even started to make a list of a bunch of shows that I suggest if anybody needs something to listen to while we're on hiatus, and it was just too long. So just message us if you want some suggestions. I listen to a lot of shows. I'm happy to give. Okay, quick recap on Elisabeth's life, though. If you're just jumping in here, you should probably go back and listen to episode 1.
Rewind. So, Sisi was born to a duke and duchess in Bavaria. And she had a pretty fucking happy childhood.
Yeah. No complaints all around.
Didn't have to get educated.
They didn't make her take her education too seriously. They didn't make her have a lot of responsibility. She spent a lot of time just hanging out with her brothers and sisters and riding horses.
And plot twist, whenever she was 16, things all changed for her.
Yes, drastically. She became the Empress of Austria at just 16 years old, which she was not happy about.
And then by the time she was 20, she had 3 fucking kids.
And she'd already lost one of those children. She had a mother-in-law from hell.
Yeah, Princess Sophie was mother-in-law from hell.
So Elisabeth falls into a deep depression, which manifests in eating disorders, body dysmorphia, and just distancing herself from all her loved ones.
And she gets really fucking sick, and the doctors are like, hey, maybe Austria just isn't your jam, yo.
Maybe you're allergic to Austria.
Yeah,
and
so
she was like,
get the fuck out.
And so Queen Victoria sends her a royal yacht called the Osborne.
And she GTFOs.
Yeah, because when Queen Victoria sends you a boat, you get on it.
You get on a boat, bitch.
Yes. All right. So now we're all caught up, and she is getting the fuck out of Dodge.
AKA Vienna.
Yeah, she's getting the fuck out of Vienna.
So she takes Queen Vicky's boat and heads to the island of Madeira.
I'd never heard of Madeira before.
Really?
And so I Googled it, and now I really want to go to Madeira. It's an island off the coast of Portugal.
Her doctors thought that she had TB, tuberculosis.
And so they were like, the tropical kind of conditions.
Fresh air.
Will be really good for you, the warmer climate. She spent 6 months on this island, and it really helped.
And while she was there, she doesn't really keep up with her family and her husband.
Her husband writes her every day.
Yeah, he's obsessed.
There's rumors that he may have taken up with this actress that he did later go on to have like a affair with for the rest of his life.
Yeah. She probably heard about this too.
But I think if she had a pocket full of fuck, she still wouldn't have given a fuck about.
Because she's like out in Madeira.
Because she didn't like sex. She wasn't in love with her husband like he was in love with her. So I think if the rumors that he was having an affair did get back to her, she would have been like, I'm on a boat.
Fuck off.
I'm on an island. I don't have tuberculosis.
New phone, who dis?
New phone, exactly. They're like the Viennese court is like, hey, your husband's having an affair, and she's like, new phone, who dis? Exactly.
Well, the Vietnamese court, they really fucking hated her.
No, they did not like her. They didn't like her when she was around. They didn't like her whenever she was gone. And so it's like, you know what? Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly.
The only thing, like, I'm not mad at her about not really writing back to her husband so much, but she didn't really even try to keep up with, like, her kids' lives, you know?
Yeah,
she didn't really try to make sure that they knew who she was. Well, she was like, y'all weren't letting me be a part of my kid's life anyway while I was there.
So why would I care now?
So why do I care? I mean, she cared, but, like, she's like, what's the point of trying?
Yeah, because Princess Sophie's just gonna step right on in and steal your kids.
Spoiler alert, just for the rest of her life, she's got kind of her relationship with her children makes me icky.
Yeah, it's not a good one. But, I mean, with this family, their relationship with their children is always a little bit estranged.
Yeah. After about 6 months, Franzi J is like, people are starting to talk, like, a lot. I miss the fuck out of you. Your kids don't remember what you look like. Can you come home?
Yeah, please come home.
And she was like, ugh.
Fine. I guess I'll come home.
So she hops on the Osborne and heads back to Austria.
And the fucking damnedest thing happens to her. As soon as she reaches Vienna, she gets fucking sick again.
Like, she gets really sick, and they think she has TB again, which makes me wonder how much of this was...
Sisi? Fabricated in her head?
Not fabricated. But, you know, like, if you worry about something enough, you can make yourself physically sick.
You can.
Your mind has that kind of control
lot of
over
power.
your body.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think she was just psyching herself out. I just honestly think she was making herself sick with stress, and just that was wreaking havoc on the immune system.
And girl, it got fucking bad. She wasn't eating. She wasn't sleeping. She was like coughing.
She hates the courts.
Yeah,
so
she's
much.
She's just a country kind of gal.
It's so uptight.
Just a small town girl.
Living in the biggest empire court in the world.
all right. I'm here for it.
she wrote because like we mentioned before, she wrote poetry her whole life, and she wrote, "Oh, had I but never left the path that would have led me to freedom. I have awakened in a dungeon with chains on my hands."
Lord, if that doesn't speak to like royalty.
How gilded cage,
Yep.
you know, like
she's in
she
the caged bird sings.
She hated it, and the doctors were like, "Well, I guess you need to leave Vienna again," and like they hadn't even finished the sentence, and she was like, "Bye."
Okay, bye. I guess I need to leave
I gotta go. Twist my fucking arm. They called this a rest cure. Like
it's just a fucking vacation.
She just couldn't handle the pressure.
She needs a vacay. That's what that is.
She's just like, all right, bye, and she heads to an island off of Greece called Corfu, and
Corfu.
So she heads to Corfu, and just like with Hungary, just like with Madeira, everywhere she goes, people just like.
She's a goddess.
To her.
She's a goddess.
They're like, oh my god, the empress is coming to stay here, and they love her.
Has to be here.
And they love her, and she loves them, because she doesn't like that court protocol. She wants to go.
And I love you for loving me.
And that's showbiz, kid.
Sorry for the Chicago reference.
She doesn't like the court protocol.
No, she
loves
doesn't.
going to these places and meeting just like what Joe the plumber. Like, you know, she loves, like, just the ordinary people. So, like, everybody that she met loves her except for the goddamn courtiers in Vienna.
And then while she's in Corfu, she's like, hey, I'm cool again.
I'm totally recovered.
No diseases. I'm done.
Her TB is gone. She's not getting sick. She's actually eating like at least one meal a day.
Yeah, right. So sad. So she wrote in her diary that every time she saw a ship setting sail, that she had a strong desire to be on that ship. Like,
she didn't even care where it was going.
Yeah, she didn't want to be there. I read that quote and I was just like, she just wanted to not be popular.
No, I think it's more she just wanted to see the world. She knew that there was more to the world than what she had seen.
Agreed.
And she had wanderlust. And then also maybe it was part of like, oh, I have responsibilities here now.
I don't want to do this.
So it could be a combination of things. Wanderlust and wanting to escape.
But she didn't give a fuck where she was going or where she was headed. She just wanted to get the fuck out.
So she hit up all kinds of places. She went to Egypt. She went to Spain, Portugal, Greece.
And she wasn't going to all these places and visiting just with, like, other royal people. No. She was, like, visiting with the commoners.
She was going to hospitals. She was, like, going to war-torn countries and, like, helping change bandages of, like...
Giving me Princess Diana vibes.
So much. Princess of the people. A lot of Princess Diana vibes in that, the eating disorders and the... You know,
didn't want to be queen, but ended up queen, and just like overwhelmed with it.
Was just sort of chosen while she was a teenager to be queen. Yeah, so she wasn't going and just hanging out with the other dukes and duchesses and shit. She was going and visiting the commoners. She wanted to know, okay, we're in Greece. Hey, these commoners, where's your favorite place to get baklava? Okay, now we're in Portugal. Hey, just regular dude over there. What's your favorite place to get cherry brandy? You know, like, she wanted to be...
Getting in touch with the roots.
Yeah!
Getting in touch with her roots.
Yeah!
Well, their roots. So she became obsessed with, like, travel, meeting new people, and she wanted to know the world outside of Vienna. Exactly. She didn't just want her court life.
She wanted to know other cultures.
Yes.
And because she loved everywhere she went, everyone loved her back. So she decides that she needs to start learning some of these languages if she's going to be going to all these places. I can relate. I try to at least learn, do you speak English?
Yes.
In
And where's the bathroom?
Because I feel like just assuming, like I do travel a lot, and most places, especially in their most touristy towns, people do speak English.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's polite to at least learn how to
say,
ask
do you
them,
speak
do
English?
you speak English?
Well, it's respectful.
Yeah.
It's respectful.
And she was kind of feeling that, but since she's empress to the umpteenth degree, she's like, I gotta learn these fucking languages. I should have learned them when I was a kid. I need to actually get into this. So
she started taking language lessons during her beauty regimens.
And you know
put
what?
Put on a face mask, Chinese. Put on a face mask, French.
Yes. Except that her beauty regimens would last 3 or 4 hours a day.
All day.
We're not going to dive into all of her beauty regimens.
Yeah.
Because
ridiculous.
that'd be its own show on its own. But we're going to talk about her hair care. Because it was excessive.
Hair care. We care.
Lots of hair. Super cares. So we've talked briefly about how she had this really long hair.
But seriously, guys, that shit did not come easily. Hair care.
Sisi
hair care.
It went down to her ankles by this time in her life.
So she was a dirty blonde whenever she grew up. But at this point, she's now light brown.
Yeah.
So
Sisi was
she's a dirty blonde.
Oh. Me too.
Me too.
Me too.
Same Cs.
As in I'm dirty-minded and a blonde. Anyway.
I'm just dirty.
I'm just dirty. I haven't showered in weeks. So, could you focus?
Could you?
Could you?
Could you?
Could you? Okay, no.
We're talking about hair care.
Elisabeth is I need to find someone that knows their shit, because I don't want to just wear my hair in a ponytail every day.
Because she whips her hair back and forth.
It's too much hair to just wear down. I need some interesting styles.
So she finds a hairdresser, and her fucking hairdresser is this young woman named just call her Franny. Fanny.
She went by her name was Frazixa. No way I'm getting that right. But the Anglican version of what she went by was Fanny. That's what everyone in court called her, Fanny. So we're not just whitewashing this woman. That was what she went by.
And she traveled around with her and did her hair.
Yeah, Fanny was very commoner. But I wish I had had more time to go into Fanny's life, because I believe she wrote a memoir, or somebody has written a book on her. She was born super, super low, but from a young age, Fanny was just very creative with doing people's hair. Yeah,
she was even in theater, opera.
She pulled herself up from her bootstraps and got a job at the Royal Theater.
Work, girl! Yes!
And that's how Sisi found her. She went and saw a play in Vienna.
It was hey.
And it was oh my god, everyone's hair is so creative.
Can you do my hair like that?
Awesome. Who does all the actresses' hair? And so she poached Fanny. She was like, I gotta meet her. She went and met her, and she was like, are you happy with your job here at the theater? And Fanny was like, absolutely, of course I am. And Sisi was like, how about I pay you 3 times what you're making and you come live at court with me?
Ooh.
And Fanny went, I don't have time to put in a 2 weeks notice. I'm going to live in a palace now.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye. And
so she was spending 3 hours a day.
At least.
At least.
So she's
on her
this
hair.
commoner who is now basically the right hand woman.
Wasn't it Egg and Brandy?
Because it took so long to do her hair, they did spend a lot of time together. And yes, like you were saying, they would once every other week they would do this deep treatment in her hair with egg,
quote unquote,
egg and cognac.
Yum. No.
And that was a deep treatment that they did. It does kind of sound like my breakfast every other morning. But That was like a deep treatment that they did on her hair once every couple of weeks. But just even on like a regular day,
she was braided for the gods.
She would do these gorgeous styles. Like if Fanny was alive right now, she would be a YouTube star with like tutorials and everything.
Yeah, agreed. Like beauty tutorials. Like agreed. Yeah.
But
agreed.
So anyway. While Sisi is getting these hair care procedures done, she has tutors come in, and they're going to teach her languages and histories and just like okay, today we're going to focus on Greece. We're going to talk about the important philosophers from Greece. We're going to talk about the foods from Greece. We're going to talk about the diplomats from Greece, and you're going to learn Greek. Okay. And then the next day, someone would come in and be like, we're going to learn Hungarian today. You're going to
learn all the philosophies and the culture.
So, because Sisi had said she felt like whenever she was just sitting there having her hair done, that her brain was coming out with every strand of hair that got pulled out.
Yeah, I read that too.
So she was like, I gotta refill that brain.
She would get so distraught whenever they would brush her hair, and then she'd see this hair come out of her head. It's like, girl, but you're shedding. Yeah. You're just shedding.
Yes. So, also, while she would be getting her hair done and having these lessons, she would also have like her letters. She would dictate letters and have letters read to her, and every single day her husband was writing her.
Speaking of letters, yes.
Every single day he was like, honey, I miss you, I love you so much, I know you're feeling better, maybe you could come.
She's like, LOLs, heart hurt.
New film her disc.
Yeah, she just wasn't about it.
Mm-mm. So in 1862, Franzi J is like,
hey!
Haven't seen you in 2 years. It's been a minute.
And it's my fucking birthday.
He was turning 32.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think, because like, he's already been emperor at this point for like 15 years.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, we're going to have like this big ass party. I would really love for my gorgeous, beautiful wife that I love so much to be there, please.
Bitch, please. I think he was, like, a nice guy.
I think he was a very sweet husband, because he could have been like, I'm fucking emperor, and I need my fucking wife here.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of bag of dicks in our past have been like that.
Douche canoes.
But he wasn't. He was like, if you're feeling better, I would really love to see
So
you.
He's being nice about it. He knows that he's got a little pretty hot ticket on his hands.
Yeah. And she's like...
Fine.
But on our way to Austria, surprise, surprise, she starts suffering migraines.
She's allergic to Austria, guys.
I also kind of think maybe the migraines are from that 15 pounds of hair that she's got braided on top of her head. But
probably.
As the carriage is reaching Vienna, she throws up 4 times. That sounds like one stinky fucking carriage.
Yeah. Oh. Ooh.
But again,
one horrible eating disorder.
I think it's just her mind.
Yeah.
She's like psyched herself up so much.
She's a mind
making
fuck.
Herself sick.
She's definitely a mind fuck.
I used to coordinate weddings, and there were constantly we'd have people in the wedding party that were just like so nervous about their duties that they would make themselves sick. So I think she's in that line. You know what I mean?
I mean, maybe it's because I was born on the stage.
Yeah. I had 0.0 problem with
hello, welcome.
If anything, I was way too on for putting on a show at my wedding.
Truth.
My wedding was fun.
Love you. So
anyway,
she knew she had to stay.
She knew that this was going to be not just like a quick pop in again. Like, she had been gone for 2 fucking years.
Yeah, and her son was like fucking 4 years old and didn't even know what she looked like.
Her daughter Gisela was 6 and barely knew her mother. Someone wrote us and said that we were pronouncing Gisela wrong. That it was the soft G. But I tried to look up Gazella. But like, I looked up YouTube videos and everybody says Gisela in all of them. So I don't know what's right.
I just like jizz. Gisela. Katie is giving me. Sorry, guys.
I don't even know what to say to any of that.
I just came at you.
I don't know how to respond.
You don't.
To anything. Okay, then let's.
New phone, who dis?
New phone, who dis? So Gisela or Gazella, but I'm going to say Gisela because that's how everyone else. But thank you, listener, that wrote in to try to help. Oh my god. Let's. So yeah, her daughter didn't know her face. Her son barely knew who she was, and her husband just wanted her near.
Yeah, and Sophie in the court fucking hated her for being her.
Well, they hated her for being gone, but you know what? They hated her when she was around too.
They just hated her.
So she was never gonna win with these fucking Vienna sausages, motherfucker.
Vienna sausages. So she was sick.
Yep. She was sick, but this time she had to stick around for a time.
And she fell back into her old habits.
She wouldn't eat. She became obsessed with her weight.
Exercising for hours and hours.
She had gymnasiums built in every one of her palaces. She would often say she's too sick to go to court events, but that's because those events would have lots of food. Mm-hmm. And if she didn't eat, people are going to pick on her. And if she does eat, they're going to pick on her.
Anyway.
Yeah, so...
And she had a secret passage from, her bedroom to the kitchen.
So that, after everyone left, she could go binge. And that just makes me so sad.
It's so sad.
Because back then, really... Even when I feel like
it was
when we
depressing.
were kids...
I'm sorry, guys. I love you for suggesting Sisi, but, when I was reading her, it was just oh my god, this is so depressing.
Eating disorders are so sad because I feel like they really weren't understood until the 90s.
Yeah.
The 1990s. And this is the 1860s.
So nobody got what she was doing, but she's just so obsessed with it's so sad. It's so fucking sad. It is
sad, but here's a silver lining. Around this time, she's like, all right, I've got to be in Vienna, but I am the fucking empress. I am the mother to the heir. I'm going to take control over my household a little bit. And so she's hired her one hairdresser, who's her closest confidant. And then Fanny's husband, who's also a nobody. She hired him as well. She actually changed the law. You weren't allowed to be married and be a lady, in waiting to the empress. But Fanny was like, well, I'm going to quit because I love this guy. I want to get married. And so Sisi was like, well, then I'll just change the rules.
Because you're my hairdresser.
Yeah, and she's like, I can't lose you. And I also don't want you to be depressed. So.
Aw, that's cute.
And so Sophia's like, look, this is dumb. You have to have some nobility in your household. You can't just have these nobodies you bring into the court with you.
And Sisi's like, sure. Fine. Yeah. No.
She's like, you bring up a really good point, mother-in-law Sophie. Mother-in-law Aunt Sophie. Bring me a list of the most suitable Hungarian ladies.
This was
it was a power play.
Cersei Lannister written all over it.
And Sophie was like, she couldn't say shit because she hadn't specified when she had made the demand that she needed to have nobility in her household.
This was a big fucking deal.
And remember, Sophie thought Hungarians were just these crazy, revolutionary assholes that couldn't be tamed or whatever. But
Sisi's like, no, they're real people.
Sisi filled her, and all her ladies in waiting were Hungarian.
Work. Girl,
yeah.
Give me that culture. So Sisi,
she's coming into her own.
Yeah, she's coming. Everything's coming up roses.
She's feeling confident. And in 1865, one of her son's tutors kind of
not the Henry kind.
No, one of his teachers kind of sees that Elisabeth is playing a more hands-on role, and he comes up to her one day, when Sophie's not around, when the king's not around, and he's like, hey, look, it's not my business to judge how your son should be raised, but if I don't say this, I'm going to feel guilty for the rest of my life. This kid is about to fucking crack under the pressure.
Yeah.
And so he thinks it's normal, and the emperor thinks it's normal, so do with that what you will. Little Rudolph, it turns out, was a very sensitive boy. He was more like his mother. And he was very sensitive.
We're going to go into a whole Patreon episode about him.
Yeah. But little Rudolph, at all of 5 years old, was getting full-on military training. Like the type of training our men get when they join the military. Yes. Or women. But at the time, it was just men.
I just had an army boy last week.
Oh. Well, the type of training he was getting in his 20s was the type of training this 5-year-old boy was getting.
What?
And this little boy was...
No, thank you. I couldn't do it.
To crack under the pressure.
I couldn't do it.
So, Elisabeth writes up, like, she makes a formal and, like, legally binding ultimatum for Franz. And she goes and gives it to him. And basically, the long and short of it is, look, kid, either I get control over my children's education, or I'm hitting the road and I'm never coming back.
Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more.
Unless you let me choose my kids' education. And Franzi J was like, okay, so if I give this right to you, if I allow you to, like, have complete control over their education, you'll stay here indefinitely, right? And she said, define indefinitely. And he said, what? And she said, never mind. And she got control.
Yep. Sounds about right. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So, sidestep a little bit. So, around this time, Austria got its ass fucking handed to them in the Austro-Prussian Wars. And
it was not good.
To add insult to injury, their power in Italy, gone. Obliterated.
Totally deteriorated.
Fucked off. Mm-hmm. And the only large landholding they still had was Hungary. And I'm hungry.
Elisabeth was always hungry.
Y'all, we don't have time for this.
Yeah, we don't have time to, like, do a deep dive into it. So, like, quick recap is that in 1849, Hungary had revolted against Austria, and they had been, like, super duper beaten down, and they lost, like, all of their right. But now that, like, all their other land holdings had gone to shit, Austria really needs Hungary to, like, not revolt.
Yeah, please give me your money.
We have zero money, so we need you to be cool. And remember, Elisabeth loves Hungary.
Yeah, she does.
And she becomes acquainted with this dude named Andrassy. And I know there's no way I'm saying that right, but that's how it looks on paper.
Andrassy.
And so Andrassy was a diplomat and a statesman from Hungary. We don't have time to go into his background, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And he had been a revolutionary and then had to, like, escape Hungary. And now he was coming back now that he gets wind of, like, Austria needs our help.
And nobody...
And the empress is sympathetic to us. So Andrassy comes back, and it's unclear who reached out first.
Who texted who first.
Who started the friendship. But Andrassy and Elisabeth formed this, like...
a love affair.
No. I don't think so. But they formed
it's possible.
They formed a very, very close friendship. And she famously wrote, if the emperor's cause goes badly in Italy, it pains me. But if it goes badly in Hungary, it's the death of me.
Work that Hungary message.
Yes. Yeah, so like you said, some people thought that Elisabeth and Andrassy were lovers.
But I really think she just, like, found somebody that had power like her and could relate to her.
He was the first statesman that realized that she wasn't just a gorgeous head of hair. You know?
Right?
It was like the first,
you just don't have beautiful tits.
It
Like,
was
you are
the
a human.
First important diplomatic person who could actually make change in the world for thousands of people who cared about her opinions on
everything.
like, on actually being a fucking empress.
Being a person.
Like, but, like, her diplomatic opinions. Like, no one had ever asked her, like, well, do you think we should have a parliament, or do you think we should be, like, full stops monarchy? No one had ever asked her that before. So
it's about damn time.
And so, well, I personally don't think it was a love affair. It was more of just, like, a meeting of the minds. They definitely...
They hit it off.
I also
So
think she just didn't really like sex. Why would she all of a sudden... Oh, maybe like with the right person.
Maybe she could identify as like asexual type of person, you know?
Maybe she just didn't like sex with her husband.
Oh. Well, I mean, sex with your cousin's kind of weird.
Yeah. Your husband. Cousin.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts my heart.
Anyway.
Ouch.
So let's talk about the Hungarian Compromise. Again...
Skimming over all of it.
There are so many documentaries and books and other podcasts dedicated to the Hungarian Compromise. So we're going to do some recapping because a lot of the nitty-gritty details is irrelevant to the story. But
Hungary and Austria decide they need each other's help. Mm-hmm. If Austria wants to hold power over Hungary and yada yada.
And
yada.
Hungary wants to like gain a little bit of autonomy.
Yeah,
because right now they can't do anything. Hungary can't wipe its ass without asking Austria.
They want to be INDEPENDT. Do you know what that means?
It's too many letters for me to ever spell it right.
Dyslexia.
Mm-hmm. The compromise was not short, nor was it easy to come to, and Sisi did not beat around the bush with her husband with what she wanted. She would come straight up to Francie J.
And be like, yo, bro, fuck the fuck off.
This is what I want. And so now we are going to do a little bit of Queen's Podcast Theater.
Because we're fans of the theater.
And we're going to reenact this one lecture
from the Hungarian Compromise.
Yeah, so this is, Nathan will play the part of Sisi in her original text, and Katie will play the part of Sisi in modern-day American English.
I've just had an interview with Andrassy. He set forth his views, and I quite understood them, and you would trust him, and trust him entirely. We might still be saved. Not only Hungary, but the monarchy.
Yeah, so, I talked to my boy, and he made a lot of good points, but it sounds like you're being an irrational bitch. Don't you want to save the monarchy?
I can assure you that you're not dealing with a serious man. On the contrary, he is risking his present position, but approaching shipwreck is prepared to do all in his power to save it.
Andrassy isn't fucking around with you, okay? He is being honest, and he is being serious. He knows we're all fucked if we can't come to a solution of this, like, clusterfuck we've created.
For the last time, I beg you, in Rudolph's name, not to lose this at the last moment.
Don't you dare lose your crown, because it belongs to our son.
If you say no, then you will be relieved forever from my future. I shall be able to say honestly to Rudolph one day, I did everything in my power.
Get your fucking shit together and sort this Hungarian mess out, or we're done. And I'll tell Rudolph it was you that lost his inheritance, not me.
And this was a dramatic reading from Queen's Podcast.
Queen's Podcast Theater.
I live for the applause, applause, applause.
So, the Hungarian Compromise is struck up, and the bottom line is, I think this is really interesting diplomatically. Like, Hungary and Austria are going to be two separate countries.
Yeah, with their own separate governments, with their own separate ideals
parliaments
and
everything.
Yeah.
But Sisi and Franzi J, they're going to remain the Emperor and Empress of Austria, and they're going to be the King and Queen of Hungary.
And guess who becomes the Prime Minister of Austria?
Our boy Andrassy.
And
because he's got friends in high places.
Truth! And Francie J and Elisabeth are crowned King and Queen of Hungary.
And they have a big coronation. And it's like, oh, it's a big fucking deal. And she is finally... Because now she's got two capitals. She's got Vienna and she's got Budapest.
Vienna sausage?
Yes. And she finally, actually identifies and feels a kinship with the people that are now her other court.
Yeah, she's filling herself.
She is filling herself with this coronation.
So, y'all, this shit is lit.
Yes. So, Hungary, as a show of good faith, gifts the royal couple this palace that I know I'm definitely not saying right. We had somebody write us being like, I can't wait to hear the next episode when y'all try to say all these Hungarian names. And I was like, oh, they're going to be wrong.
Blukenstein.
So it's the Godolo Palace, which, no way I'm saying that right.
Godolo.
So it's
I want some pasta.
They got a G Palace. And Sisi is like, oh, well, I live here now. And Franzi J is like, well, we're going to go back home. And she's like, no, I live here now. And he was like, all right. And can you blame her?
No.
Nobody likes her in Vienna.
No.
I mean, the commoners in Vienna like her, but nobody at the court likes her, whereas the people at the court in Budapest are just like, oh my god, what can I do for you? Can I have a picture with you? Can I have your autograph? Can we do an Instagram story together? This is, yes. So why would she want to leave? I shouldn't.
No, but she was pregnant.
Well, yeah.
She had a baby.
I think that is so interesting that she was like,
met up with her husband and boned. Is that really interesting?
The reasons for it? Yes. Because she didn't... The reasons for it, because remember, for her, it was a great pain to, obviously for everyone, it's a great pain to have children, but, she didn't really connect with her children. She didn't really, she didn't like having sex with her husband.
They were stolen away from her.
But she was like, what she told him, she was like, look, Franzi, I want to have a child for Hungary. I want to have a child that's born in Hungary. All my other children were born in Austria, but now that I'm Queen of Hungary, I want to give this country a child.
And Franzi's like, fuck yeah.
Franzi's like, I get to sleep with the most beautiful woman I know again.
Sip that Kool-Aid. Pew.
Yeah. So yeah, I think his direct quote was, oh, fuck yeah. And so in 1868, she gives birth to her fourth and final child, a girl named Marie Valerie. And Homegirl never even tried to pretend that Marie Valerie wasn't her absolute favorite child.
The youngest is always the favorite.
I'm an oldest. Nathan is the youngest.
I'm the youngest.
I don't know. I feel like the oldest is... Well, your oldest siblings were twins, so they could never pretend like one was the favorite.
Yeah, they could, because one was born earlier than the other.
They were born on the same fucking day.
I know, but I was always...
I think the oldest
the
is always
youngest.
the favorite.
Oh,
we can agree to disagree.
Work that message.
So anyway,
moving on.
But this was the first baby that she was allowed to raise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she did. She was so in... We're just going to call her Valerie, because I think that's what she mainly went by. Mm-hmm. She was so in love with Valerie. she got to pick Valerie's
and
education
everybody's
and raising and her wet nurse. And
everybody's doing this, like, paparazzi, like, gossiping, talking about how...
Oh, everyone was like, well, that's really Andrassi's baby.
Yeah.
You know?
It was, like, total Diana vibes.
You can't see how hard I'm rolling my eyes. Because I don't think for a second that... I just don't think that she would have ever done that because she just wasn't a lusty person. You know what I mean?
She wasn't. Like, she wasn't a sexual person.
No,
that's not in her character.
I think it was very calculated. And also another reason I don't think she would have sex willy-nilly is because of her eating disorder and the fear of gaining weight. So I think it was a very calculated thing of, I want to specifically have a baby for this country, and I'm going to make that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I don't think she would have made that sacrifice with an illegitimate child. As snobby as it sounds, she was royalty. She wanted to have a royal baby. Anyway.
Truth.
So,
we digress.
After about a year of domestic bliss in Budapest, she's like, I see a boat, I gotta get on it.
Yeah.
You know?
I want the world. I want the whole world.
I want to see the whole world.
Yeah,
yes.
she did.
Yeah.
So her husband's like, bye. I love you. I love you. Like, why are you going away again?
And she's like, and she, like, legit was like, look, there's been these rumors about you sleeping with this actress for years and years and years. I know you deny it, like, out of, like, your love for me, but honey, if you're gonna get that affection that you've never gotten from me, go to her.
Go.
Go to her.
Bye, Felicia.
And, he actually did. Like, yeah, he never admitted to having an affair with that actress, but they definitely did.
Yeah.
And whenever...
she knew it.
And he was like, she was at his bedside when he died. Like, they were lovers, but he would have traded 100 of her in for just one Elisabeth.
Sisi, yeah.
He loved Elisabeth, but Elisabeth didn't love him back, so he had to fill her. She hopped around the world. Anywhere she could go, she went. She participated in writing competitions in England and Scotland, which was scandalous because you weren't as
a lady riding horses in competition.
It was like,
because how dare you be a woman?
No,
good.
It wasn't even so much how dare you be a woman in these competitions. It was more like, why does a empress want to come to Scotland and be in writing competitions?
Because she wants to be in a writing competition.
Because she loved writing
Why
so
not?
much.
Haters gonna hate. Taylor Swift.
There was this rumor she had an affair with this guy in England, and his name was George Middleton.
Lies.
Again, I seriously doubt this, though I do believe this one more than the Andrassi one.
Well, they like to ride things together.
Because they did have... No, exactly. They had a physical relationship, whereas with her and Andrassi, it was mostly letters. Mm-hmm. They met several times, but it was mostly letters. Whereas this one is they would ride together for hours and hours. Because we talked about in the first episode where she would like ride for hours and hours and hours, and her ladies in waiting would pass out because they couldn't keep up. He could ride with her. Quit laughing. It's not sexy. It's just...
I'm just thinking about riding for hours and hours.
Because they're riding those ponies.
Sorry about it.
But no, they were both obsessed with equestrian.
About riding?
Yes. It sounds dirty, so I tried to use a smart word.
It's dirty.
It is dirty. And again, Middleton was, I mean, he's not like so like commoner born, like base born, like, but he was way more common than she was.
Yeah.
There was definitely an affection there, and there was definitely chemistry. I don't think she had an affair with him, but I believe it more. Funny story. She loved Middleton so much, she invited him back to Godolo, or whatever the place in Budapest was, and little baby, her son Rudolph, was so mean to him. He was so mean to Middleton, like he was such a brat.
Stop trying to be my dad.
Yeah. Basically, he was like I can just imagine like Middleton being like, "Hey, buddy, you want to go horseback riding?" And he's like, "You're not my dad." And, like,
you're not my real dad.
And like ran off. Stop sleeping with my mom,
bitch.
Anyway, after this trip though to the UK, she could never go back because her showing up, she went to Ireland. And this was a time when
Ireland
and England
they don't get along.
A big falling out over religion still. And she was Catholic, and there was a big uprising in Ireland about Catholicism against Protestant England. And so Francie J was like, "Look, I know you're just going there because you love horses, but it looks like we're sending you there to support the Catholics."
Yeah. And she's a huge, like, Catholic figure, too.
And so he was like, "So, I'm sorry you can't go back there." And I'm sure she was, like, a little annoyed because they did have, like, such a big horses and shit culture there, I guess. But, like, I feel like she got it. She was like, "Well, I'm not trying to be a divisive figure, so
yeah,
I guess
I want to unite,
there.
not divide."
Yeah, so she never went back, which is sad, but fine.
But guess whose birthday's coming up? It's Sisi.
Her birthday!
And Francie J asked her, "Say, girl, what do you want for your birthday?"
And she said a live tiger.
Because that's what you do.
But more importantly, she said she wanted a state-of-the-art, we don't use this phrase now, but so this is a phrase of the time. She said she wanted a fully staffed, state-of-the-art lunatic asylum. Which is, I know to us, just seems like she wants a tiger and a loony bin. What? But like, at the time, remember her family history. There's such a history of mental disorders in her family. And she has such a soft spot for the misunderstood, the outcast, and everything.
Well,
and at the time, it wasn't understood. She just wanted a place for these people to go.
I can relate.
And so I just think that is so sweet.
And it's totally Princess Diana.
Totally Princess Diana vibes.
Like, give to the needy, give to the people that don't have as much as you.
It makes me think of Princess Diana going to the hospital with the AIDS victims when people thought back then that you could get AIDS from shaking hands. And she went to, and she hugged these AIDS victims.
Beautiful.
And so mental disorders were so misunderstood at this time. They probably thought you could catch crazy from shaking hands, and she's going and trying to help these people. So I think it's very
so outreaching, but so sad.
Exactly.
So sad.
So, in 1872, mother-in-law Sophie gets sick, and Francie J writes to Sisi and is like, "Look, I don't even know where you are at this point, but can you
please come home?
Please come home."
And you know what? He didn't ask her to come home. He didn't do that all that often.
So she knew when he actually did it. It was a big deal.
It was like, hey, bitch.
I think that's a very beautiful part of their relationship. He understood her wanderlust, and she understood when he actually asked me to come home.
Yeah,
anyway,
he was.
So he was like, "Please come home. I'm a mess. The kids are a mess. My mother is dying. I need you here."
Oh, Princess Sophie.
Sophie's other son, Max, who we'll talk about in the Patreon episode, had also just died. And it's like a reoccurring theme in this family that when one of their children die, they just give up the will to live.
Yep.
And that's what happened with Sophie. Her son Max had died by firing squad in Mexico.
Max was a big ol' hippie.
So yeah, Sophie probably had a brain tumor. And Elisabeth wasn't heartless. She felt sorry for Sophie. She knew how it felt to lose a child and just feel distraught over it. So, Elisabeth would take part in, like, you always need someone to sit with the ill. And she would sit with Sophie from time to time, which was...
That's very, like...
grown
the
up
woman,
of her.
yeah.
The woman was
that
horrible
stole
to you.
your child away from you. Like, that's a big deal.
Francie J was just so stressed out. And just having her there was a calming presence for him. Helped him, like, deal with all this shit. And, oh my God, I read this one thing. It was so sad. Like, he made the people go and lay out, like, hay all over the streets surrounding the palace so that the carriages that drove by didn't make any noise to, like, disturb her.
No.
Yeah, I know.
So, Sophie of Bavaria passed away in
Her
Vienna
beloved Vienna.
at 67? 68?
She was 67 years old.
Yeah.
After the funeral, her official duties, Elizabeth was like, not so much. I'm just going to fuck off again.
Yeah, she's not super sure what she's doing.
So, this point in time, it's kind of hard to keep track of where Elizabeth was. Like, she was definitely in Vienna for the funeral.
I can tell you where she wasn't.
I can tell you where she wasn't. She wasn't in Vienna, and she wasn't in Budapest either. She was just like, I gotta go see the world.
She was at her,
She
wasn't at her daughter's Gisela.
She didn't attend her daughter's wedding.
It's kind of fucked up.
Let me say that again. She didn't attend her daughter's wedding? In 1837, her daughter Gisela was married in Vienna
Gisela
to a Bavarian prince. So I just don't understand why she wasn't there. Like, they had a frosty relationship.
Yeah.
They were not close.
She icy.
In any way, shape, or form. I have this theory that, like, she, like, looked at her kids and she was like, look, y'all aren't sick, y'all aren't poor, y'all aren't starving. I'm gonna go try to help people that are sick, poor, and starving. So I kind of don't care that you're getting married. And
her mother-in-law from hell took care of her kids and stole them away, so she didn't have much of a choice.
So
she didn't have a choice.
Yeah, they weren't close. Gisela and Rudolph had very different views on their mother. Rudolph thought of their father as, like, a war-obsessed dickhead. So a war dick.
Yes.
He viewed the father as a war dick, whereas Rudolph viewed their mother as, like, this perfect woman. This beacon of light.
She was eleganza.
Yeah. Whereas Gisela was the opposite. Gisela was very close to their father. She viewed her father as, like, a very, like, even-headed, smart man, but then she viewed her mother as, like, just this, like, distant, like, mythical figure. You know, like I don't know her, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the royal family nowadays can probably relate to that.
Mm-hmm. So, Sophie takes off seeing the world again. She goes to Corfu again. Franz buys her this plot of land in Corfu, and they build this palace called the Achilleon.
Bitch, I don't buy you, like, a ring. I buy you a palace.
Because he wants her to just put roots down somewhere.
Yeah.
And so he lets her design this palace, which, Google it. The Achilleon in Corfu. It's
gorgeous.
It's based on Greek mythology. So there are, like, Achilleon is after Achilles. Mm-hmm. And it's based, like, there are all over the place these Greek mythology sculptures. Y'all, it is so beautiful. Like,
Google it.
I really want to go there. But she really doesn't stay involved in her family's life.
Except Valerie.
She fucking loves Valerie.
She loves her.
Valerie is, like, her confidant. Valerie is her
BFF or E.
Like, she loves her. Rudolph gets married to this Belgian princess.
I don't know why.
Well, he had to get married to somebody.
Yeah.
And there were only so many Catholic monarchs
Aaron
left.
is fair.
Yeah. But Elizabeth hated Rudolph's wife, and I can't work it out. So, Her name was Stephanie.
We'll go into this in the Patreon.
She called Stephanie a clumsy oaf.
Yeah, she did.
And so I read that the reason that Elisabeth didn't like Stephanie was because her family was so much lower than the Habsburgs. But that just seems so out of character for Sisi, because she was not snobby like that.
A bag of dicks. History is a bag of dicks.
Yeah, but I didn't expect Sisi to be one of those bags, you know?
Well, no, she's not one of those bags, but somebody made her a bag.
This woman is constantly contradicting herself all the time.
She is.
She's a very complicated character.
Wow, child.
The marriage between Rudolph and Stephanie was not a happy one.
No.
Which is not unheard of with these royal marriages.
Surprise.
But yeah, so Rudolph was a lot more like Sisi. We already spoke about how he was tender-hearted. He hated his father.
And then our Patreon episode is going to be on the Mayerling incident.
Yes.
So, okay. Fuck it, guys. Like, this shit started out with a bang.
The Mayerling incident, literally bang, because shooting yourself.
Bam!
So, yeah, we're going to dive in deeper to this in the Patreon episode, but Prince Rudolph was very depressed.
Yeah. And
he was not a happy person.
He put his dick stip in some other bitches and just tried to make himself feel better.
Did you say dick stip?
Dick stip.
Dick stick. Is that a stick with a dick on the end, or is that just a dick?
It's your dick.
Well, then why didn't you just say dick?
Well, I could, but I wouldn't be cool.
But I want to say a dick stick.
But he put his dick stick in a bunch of people.
And one of them was a 17-year-old daughter of a baron.
Yeah, and they went to this hunting lodge and
they
had a party.
They did a little murder-suicide. Which is,
a light murder-suicide.
Just a little bit of murder-suicide. We're making jokes about it, but no.
It's bad.
Rudolph killed his girlfriend and then killed himself.
Yes.
Something fucked up that I'm sure we're going to go into the Patreon episode. He had actually asked another one of his mistresses to do the murder-suicide, and that mistress said no. And so he went to his B-string mistress and said, murder-suicide, and that mistress said yes.
You want to kill yourself?
No, I don't. Okay, cool. I'll go to
how do you proposition somebody?
I'm sure he probably propositioned it like a Romeo and Juliet type thing.
But still, no. You want to kill yourself? No, I'm cool.
So, whatever the reasoning, this shit fucking broke Elisabeth.
Yeah.
She had a full-on mental breakdown.
She already had mental problems, so on this, it was just over the top.
She told Franz that she wanted to kill herself. And Valerie reported that, she, still weeks later, Valerie would walk into her room and Elisabeth would just be talking to herself and laughing at herself and just, talking to people that weren't there, which makes me think of her cousin that we talked about on Patreon. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so they had to, diagnose Rudolph as having,
diagnose him as what we would say today as
mentally
schizophrenic.
Insane.
Yeah, but back then they didn't have that word. Today we would say he was schizophrenic. And
we
don't know if he was, but the reason they had to do that back then
is because incest.
No, it's because Catholicism. Because in the Catholic Church, if you kill yourself, you can't have a Christian funeral. Yeah. And so they had to they had to fabricate it. I know. There's a lot, guys.
They
had to make up all these stories to hide the fact that he killed himself so he could be buried in the family crypt.
Yep.
And it's very sad.
So it seems that Sisi was in Vienna at the time.
Which is crazy, because she was never in Vienna, but she was in Vienna when the murder-suicide happened.
And when the guy that arrived to court to tell them the emperor happened...
Well, So there was like this hierarchy of people that were allowed to talk to the emperor about sensitive subjects.
Yeah. This was so tragic.
The only person in the hierarchy of the only person allowed to tell the emperor that his son had died in the hierarchy in the Venetian court was the
his
empress.
Wife.
And she just happened to be there.
That tore her apart.
I know. So this guy, don't shoot the messenger guy.
Yeah.
Shows up to court. He's got this horrible news. And so he is presented to Sisi. But she's in her Greek lessons. She's having her hair done.
I'm learning Greek.
And she's like, tell him to come back in an hour. And her lady in waiting goes out to talk to him. And the messenger's like, look, this is the deal. Her son's dead.
Your son's dead.
Convince her to talk to me. Because that guy couldn't tell her, no, you have to talk to me. Her lady in waiting had to convince, because it's so fucked up.
Hierarchy.
And so finally, Sisi was like, fine, I'll talk to this guy. And he's like, this is what happens. This is what happened. Your son is dead. And it looks like he killed himself.
She is hot mess.
She does
express.
not. I feel like it would be an understatement to say that she did not handle it well.
Yeah.
She
I would be like,
full on.
Why?
Yeah.
Like that would
pretty
just,
much,
just be it.
Full on hysterics.
Yeah.
She is screaming. She is throwing shit. She's breaking lamps. She's breaking, I don't know, Fabergé eggs or whatever. Whatever they have laying around, she's throwing.
She's throwing it at your face.
And so
she's pissed.
Franzi J down the hall hears this kerfuffle.
He's like, hey, Mom, what's going on?
Wife, what's going on?
Oh.
What? He's like, do I hear a kerfuffle down the hall? And everybody knows. Everyone in the court knows, but they can't tell him. So yeah, you should go talk to your wife.
Hello.
And so, he's like, what's wrong with my wife? And I'm like, just go fucking talk to her. We can't tell you. And so he enters her chambers and is like, what? Sees all the wreck and is like, this can't be good.
And she's like, hey, our son's dead.
So we don't know, because neither of them wrote about what happened or ever told anybody what happened. So it was just, it was only the two of them in the room when it happened. But what we do know is that they talked for a while, and he left the room, quote unquote, a broken man.
Yeah.
And he went to his own quarters and didn't leave for a couple of days.
I just honestly think, as a mother, I'm not a mother, I'm a pet mother, but as a mother, how do you tell somebody that your child's gonna die?
And so, she never recovered.
No.
He never recovered.
No.
They kind of felt like there was no reason for us to have anything to do with each other anymore.
By Felicia.
Yeah. She was done giving any fucks about Austria. She took to the sea. She would travel on yachts and boats for months and months. Yeah, bitch.
She's like, I'm gonna travel the world on my cruise from fucking Isabella.
She said, I want to travel the world until I drowned and am forgotten.
So emo.
So emo.
So emo.
She wore black for the rest of her life.
Emo.
She pretty much totally stopped eating. All she would eat was bone broth. You know?
Yeah, she did that.
Yeah.
That was something I was like, eating disorder.
Yeah.
Sorry, girl.
More sadness happened.
Ugh.
She got word that her sister Helene was sick. Remember Helene from episode 1?
Mm-hmm.
Helene was sick, and so she rushed home to Bavaria to be by her side, and she brought Valerie with her. And Valerie wrote in her memoirs that it was a bittersweet reunion.
And that same year, Andrassy died.
So Helene and Andrassy died the same year. When Andrassy died, she told Valerie, that was my last and only friend.
Sorry, I had a moment.
So she decides she's not going anywhere that reminds her of people she loved.
Yeah.
So she's not going to Austria. She's not going to Bavaria. She's not going to Hungary.
Fuck Vienna.
Yeah. She won't go to any of these places. She wants to sell the Achilleon, which Franz talks her out of.
So guess what? She sets sail and goes to new places like she does.
She hops around. She does her new places thing. But in 1896, Hungary celebrated 1,000 years of being a country. And it was like a big 4-month party. It was called the Hungarian Millennial.
Fucking millennials.
Fucking millennials and their avocado toast. So I imagine at the Hungarian Millennials, there was a lot of avocado toast and people that cannot afford houses.
Preach!
So anyway, this was her last public event. She didn't know it. And it's also really sad because probably just 3 or 4 years prior, she would have been like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be at this Hungarian event.
Yeah.
But at this, she was just like...
She was on brand at that point. She was like...
But now, in 1896, she was just... She didn't want to have anything to do with it. She
out of fashion. She's out of fashion.
She just... I mean, the people were still very excited that she was there. But she just hated everything about being there.
She was very Princess Diana.
Well, she was very depressed. That's what she was. So for the next few years, she hops around.
Yeah.
Which is very on brand for Sisi.
And then in 1898,
Yep.
she developed cough, like a whooping cough, like...
And her doctors were like, we hear Switzerland is supposed to be good for coughs. Why don't you go to Geneva?
I wish my doctor would tell me
I know. Next time I go to the doctor, I'm going to write you a prescription for Switzerland. Okay.
So she checks into a hotel in Switzerland.
So she rocks up in Geneva, and they have her under a fake name. And, but, I mean, the press gets word. 1896, Switzerland, TMZ, gets word that it's actually the most famous woman in the world staying there. And, I mean, they had cameras at this time, so you can see pictures of her trying to just duck into her hotel.
She's like, let me be me.
Yeah.
So sad.
She's like, can you not?
So sad.
But, so the press getting word that she's there becomes, less of an annoyance and more of a very sad turn of events.
Yeah.
Because there was an Italian anarchist in town who had come to kill the Duke of Orleans.
Royal...
Fascist, just that was a big movement at the time. Remember, this is just a few years before all the Romanovs were killed.
Yeah, this is right before World War One.
Didn't we have a president that was assassinated right after this, around this time?
Yeah.
It was very in vogue to assassinate
your
world
leader.
leaders. Yeah. And so,
oh my God. Trump, don't die.
This Italian anarchist was there to kill the Duke of Orleans, but the Duke of Orleans had left town early. This Italian anarchist's name was Luigi.
Because I'm a Mario.
It's me, I'm a Luigi. I'm here to kill the monarchy. His name was Luigi Lucchini. So Luigi hears, the Duke fucked off, but oh my God, the most famous empress in the whole fucking world is in town?
Sign me up!
Anarchist boner. I got an anarchist boner.
So, long story short.
He puts on his green overalls, and he grabs a shiv. And if you're too young to get that, or didn't grow up in a place that they had Mario Brothers, there was Mario and Luigi, and they were overalls, and one was red and one was green. On September 10th, 1898, Sisi and her lady-in-waiting were walking through Geneva to catch, like, they were going, like, on a steamship cruise, like, around Switzerland or something.
Yeah, and this Luigi motherfucker comes up and, like, stabs Sisi in her, like, stomach.
But it was like so fast. It was like in her chest, but it was so fast that it was just like basically somebody just like punching you in the chest and running off.
And she had a corset on, so it was like put pressure on it.
Well,
so I don't think she
didn't
knew.
Feel it because she had so much padding there.
She didn't know.
And he, the weapon he used was a sharpened needle file.
A shiv.
So it was shiv. He basically shivved her. And so she collapsed.
Shady bitch.
She collapsed and just, I think the direct quote is that she went, what the fuck was that? And they picked her up and they were like, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. What the fuck was that? Like, what just happened?
It's so sad.
And again, like, because of her heavy-duty corsets, she didn't realize that it had penetrated her skin.
Yeah, she had, like, pressure on her, like, abdomen.
Which
so
is, like,
held in
it was
the bleeding.
basically acting as a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Like a ace bandage wrap, basically.
She should have slept in her fucking corset.
But she was like, yeah, I'm fine. Let's catch our boat. Let's go. And so they get on the steamship, and she starts feeling, like, faint and dizzy.
Yeah, and the crew captain is like, Well,
they don't know who she is. They don't know who she is. They're just like...
She's acting weird.
They can tell. They're like, okay, well, this lady is obviously rich from her clothes and shit. And they're like, if she's fainted... I mean, back then when people wore corsets, women fainted all the time.
All the time.
So they were like, just take her up to the fainting room on the upper deck. And so...
It's so sad because it's true.
They took her up to the fainting room on the upper deck. Her lady starts to, like, take off her dress, undo her corset. She just thinks, oh, her corset's too tight. She can't breathe.
Yeah, no, but she opens the corset and it's like blood.
Yeah. And Elisabeth wakes up and her lady goes, do you feel any pain?
And she's like, no, why? What's happened?
What happened? And then passes out again. So, enough of this hidden identity bullshit. The lady runs down to the captain and is like, that is Empress Elisabeth, Empress of Austria.
She's dying.
She has been hurt. And, again, I think the direct quote from the captain is, oh, fuck, turn this ship around. That's exactly what they did. But sadly, it was too late.
Yeah.
It was too late.
Empress Sisi died of the fucking wounds from Luigi.
She was, I think, 67 years old. She had been a Duchess in Bavaria, Empress of Austria, Queen of Hungary.
Badass. She a badass.
So aftermath, Luigi was sentenced to life in prison, but he committed suicide after a couple years in prison.
Baby.
Franzi J. was informed via telegram of what had happened, but all it said was your wife had died. And he thought she had committed suicide because she was so depressed. And for a whole 3 days, he was distraught, thinking, my son committed suicide, my wife committed suicide.
I'm down so.
Am I cursed? What happened? And so when he got the second telegram about what happened, or she was murdered, I mean, it didn't make him feel happy by any means, but he was definitely a little bit like, okay, well, at least she didn't kill herself.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, ouch.
She was buried in the family crypt. Rudolph, and then she's 2 tombs over, and they have Franzi J. in between them. It's still you can go visit her tomb and leave flowers, which people do.
Roses.
Yeah.
She would want roses.
Yeah. So legacy. Where do we even begin with her legacy? Every city she ever visited has put up a shrine to her. They have museums. They have, like...
Legacy. Fierce, fabulous, wonderful, gorgeous, did everything right.
She has statues built of her presence in Corfu, in Portugal, in Greece proper, and obviously Austria, even though she's all over Vienna. Her presence is all over Vienna. They hated her in her lifetime. They loved her. afterwards, and still. And I mean, she is one of the most requested Queen's podcast. So
thank you.
That's
this
a legacy.
Was so much fun.
So let's cheers to Elisabeth. May you be riding those horses in heaven.